Jason asked that same question.
Well, I remembered you talking about that dog you picked up at was it the World competition?
German championships.
In the German championships, because it was not performing. And
It
you kind
embarrassed
of got the dog
embarrassed the
thinking
guy,
you could
right? I'm
fix
trying
it.
to remember. So we did a podcast with you. Jason, do you know the number? I was actually trying to listen
I
to it.
don't. I could look it up, and
I'm in my
I'll put
phone,
it in the
Joeri.
show notes
Yeah.
too.
So yeah, we got Joeri with us, and he was. So Jason, you just asked a question about Joeri. What was that story? You bought a dog.
Yeah, I was at the championships.
Episode. If you're listening to this, episode 46, we did one with Joeri, Secret
it was
Service, and
early.
some stories from Joeri. He does some training, and so we're gonna have him back a couple more times, I think, to talk about some training. But anyways, backing up to the story, we're tying into the first podcast, and you bought a dog, or you were given it was probably given, I don't know, but some dog did something at a thing. Remind me what that was.
Yeah, I was at the German championships, and one of the favorites to win run into an issue in the protection work and embarrassed the guy. He started barking in the blind, find the guy, barked about 10 times, and turned around, walked off the field, jumped over the fence, and ran to the trailer. And the guy was ready to, do all kind of German things to him. And I was at
This was your dog.
no, that was not my dog.
Okay.
That
No,
was his dog.
It's his dog.
And,
That's
and
right.
I was at the parking lot, and I buy and sell dogs for a living. I was like, oh my god, this is gonna be a good deal,
Yeah.
And so I walk
It's like
up.
buying a good hound dog.
Yeah,
Wait till someone's mad at him.
yeah, and I walk up in the parking lot, and long story short, we make the deal of a lifetime, right? Before he kind of puts him in the box and never takes him out again, right? And
So what was the deal? So he cut you a deal on that dog?
oh yeah, I mean, as good as free. It wasn't free, but as good as free, right? Like a Mike deal, I have to bring Coors Light so I can get something done with Mike. But and so I took the dog home, and I was like, man, I know the dog has played high scores. I know the dog can perform, and I started training with one of my assistants every day on that issue, and we had the dog dialed in like for a year. We had him dialed in, and every day we train on a different field, and we travel, and and that dog never did that stuff again, right? And then
And you were thinking, I'll show this guy.
yeah, right. I
Shame.
was like, watch me with my $1,000 dog, right?
Yeah.
And then you start thinking about yourself. You're like, oh my god, I'm the man. I just fixed this dog. And well, that's not what the dog was thinking, because I went to the championships, and exactly what he did a year prior in Germany, he did to me there. And I have never been more embarrassed in my life, right? Because I've been telling him, my assistant been telling, oh my God, we got this dog dialed in. And after 2 days, it's 3-day competition. After 2 days competition, I was like 20 something points ahead, right? So basically, I need to show up on Sunday and do my work.
You can pick up your trophy.
Yeah, well, there was a little routine in front of that. And yeah, and the dog did exactly what he did in Germany. So yeah. And so there he came to me like, I never put him under stress, because when you train, you don't have the stress, or you don't have we went to stadiums to train, but the stadiums was empty, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not like you can rent 500 people or 1,000 people and be like, hey, can you guys sit in the stadium and pretend you like to see me train, right? So, and so I don't know, so I figured out like, well, that dog put one and one and one and one together, right? And he was like, whoa, hold on. I remember this story.
Really?
And so, yeah, I did what the German guy did a year prior at the parking lot. I
Sold
rid
him
of
to
him.
another up and coming guy.
No, not an up-and-coming guy. So a guy that was in love with the dog and all that kind of stuff. And I was like,
He's not going to compete with him.
no, he never competed with him. He just wanted to have a fun dog and train a little bit. And
So,
What do you think the breakdown was?
well, the
Like-
breakdown is basics, right? Somewhere the dog picked something up, right? Under stress, right? And I think when you compete, no matter how experienced you are, you always have a little bit of the butterflies in your stomach, right?
Mhm.
And then you might do a little bit different what you do on training, right? The dog
Right.
feels like, oh my God, something is about to happen. Whatever. There is something that that dog picks up on, right?
Right.
And it's for sure your body odor, right? It's the stress, it's the hormones, it's the pheromones, it's the all that kind of stuff. It's the it's the body odor from the handler he picks up on, because we use that body odor to train diabetes detection dogs and stuff like that. It's all about body odor, right? So
Right.
that dog is like, oh wow, why are you feeling a little stressed? Last time I smelled someone who was a little stressed, I jumped the fence, right?
I got sold for $1,000.
That's all. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Oh, so how often do you think about that situation?
I try to forget that.
Every time except when he's
But-
talking to us.
Well, you know what the deal is I think as a trainer, right? And then, you get a little bit of success, and then you win some championships, and then you start blowing your own horn a little bit.
Yeah.
Where you're like, oh my God, I was world champion, or I was national champion, or I did this, I did that. And then I think I had a little bit of issues with that because I like the recognition, right? And then you have all these people like, oh my God, right? And
Everybody
after a
likes that.
while, you start believing your own, right? You forget about, basics, and you forget about your own story just because you think now that you can fix stuff. And I could, right? In training, that dog was 100% fixed, right?
You knew what you were doing. You,
Yeah,
you
it's
would
not.
learn. Yeah.
Yes, and I still think it was me if I could have controlled my nerves or whatever, right?
Was that the first time that you were at that level? with
Yeah, oh
that
yeah.
dog?
I never competed with him, right? For a year, I trained,
Oh, okay.
and then I figured like, all right, let's just do it.
Oh.
And it was it was at the national championship for Rottweilers, right? And they needed they call it a dog in the white. That's a dog who gives a demonstration, right? And then the judge takes down every exercise and kind of says where he scores on and stuff like that. And so I was volunteering as the dog in white. So I wasn't really competing, but still there's a bunch of people, all the competitors are there, the crowd is there, everyone is there. It's and yeah, so yeah.
I was listening to a different podcast. We're going to jump off the topic for a minute, but yeah, that's in competition or whatever. But and I don't remember if it was either Elk Shape or like Kafaru Cast. It was a hunting podcast, and I don't get to listen to too many of them. But for some reason, I was listening to this one, and the guy was talking about, and I think it was a guy named I don't know his name, but he runs Elk Shape. So he does training on hunting, bow hunting and elk hunting and all that kind of stuff. And he was saying kind of that thing where you can shoot just dialed in. You know what I mean? Your archery and just bam, just nail the bullseye. And he said, and I'll probably screw it all up, but he was like, he'll go somewhere and be like, hey, watch me just drill this bullseye to somebody he doesn't even know, just kind of cocky. But he did it because he wanted the pressure.
Right.
You know what I mean? To be like, hey, you already watched this. I'm going to nail it. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know the guy, and you just kind of blow your own horn a little bit because he's like, dude, that'll make you screw up worse than ever. Whenever it's like, when you tell somebody, I'm going to drill bullseye right now, watch me do this. And he said he wanted that pressure because, like, in hunting situations, you know what I mean? Like, it's really hard to mimic that what you're talking about. You know what I mean? How do you get 1,000 people, to
in the stadium
to
or
do something or whatever? But anyway,
tell
so
you how.
he was trying to figure out different ways of adding pressure to his situations for hunting, which just, like I said, what you're talking about kind of triggered that on me. It was like, oh yeah, I remember. I don't know how you do it with a dog. I got
So
nothing
what
on-
you need to do,
nothing more
Joeri,
useful.
now is you put on a clinic and you sell admission. That's getting people in the doors. Then you can train
Yeah.
under pressure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyways, well, let's. So that was this. Like I said, we got sidetracked already on a story, but you wanted to talk about innovation and training, right? Is kind of what the topic, and
Yeah, and that results come from chasing perfection in repetition. So,
so
basically, I think for me, what I learned after 30 years of professionally training dogs is that now I go blank. You're like, I can't remember.
30
Getting
years,
old,
that's all
so
you
30
got,
years is
man.
like, that's all I got. Yeah. Is that it's basics, basic. And I think in the beginning when I was a trainer, we call it monkey see, monkey do, right?
Right.
You're like, oh my God, I saw Johnny, who was world champion, beat his dog, right?
Right.
And then the next day he won. You're like, all right, let's go home and beat our dog. I mean, by way of speaking, right? But, you see a guy throw 3 tennis balls and you're like, oh my God, right? In place of thinking, why did he throw 3 tennis balls? You're like, go home, on the way home, go to the sporting goods store, buy 6 tennis balls to be safe, right? And so, but you don't know, you don't think about it. You're like, well, if it works for this guy, it works for me,
Right.
right? And so the older you get, you're like, I think for a long time, I loved the dog as a companion, but I was more into competing and I was more into results and I was more into, right. And so now I think the older I get, you're like, I'm more into enjoying the progress, right. I
Okay.
really enjoy the daily progress. But in the time you're like, man, I have 6 months, I need to do X, Y, Z.
To
And it
get
was,
to a competition
yeah,
or
to
get to
get
the
to that
final.
competition.
Yep.
And now I haven't competed in, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, I believe. And I just love to take my dog and train every day and see the progress and see the this and see the that. And you're like, dang,
You're
looking good.
enjoying the process
Yeah,
more.
the
Right.
process more than I need to go compete at October of 2023, so I need to give gas.
Yeah.
And it's not that important to me anymore. Now I love competing. I love, I love all that stuff. But I think today I get more into the thing of like, how can I teach that dog in the most simple way this exercise?
Hmm.
Well, in the time, like I say, monkey see, monkey do, you know,
Yeah.
he puts electric color on, so do I. Now I'm like, nah, I don't think so. You know, I'm gonna use my clicker. I'm gonna use food. I'm gonna use a place board. I'm gonna use in my training hall. You open the door and it's like 30 different little attributes I built. You're like, I always building something.
Right.
I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna build this table with this little wall. Oh, it's too tall. Hold on, right? And so I have all these little things. So for every exercise, I'm like, oh no, no. I had that issue 10 years ago. Watch this. I have this table. I have this little
Right.
block. I have this little fence. I have this little, you know,
Just
and,
to do
and
different things that you're trying to do with the dog.
right. But I think right now is like I go to that. I just think about the teaching a foreign language to a person, right?
Right.
Even if the person is not the greatest in learning languages, if I teach you one word and I repeat that one word for 2 weeks, 5 times a day, and every time you can repeat it 4 or 5 times, right? And every time I tell you how you're the smartest kid in the class, and like, oh my God,
It's
right?
like,
Because that's
like
dog.
I got hola, me
Yeah,
llamo buddy.
yeah.
That's
And
about the
so
best I got in Spanish.
yeah, and so if you just do hola or whatever it is, and
Yeah.
I repeat that 5 times a day for 2 weeks, and every time you say hola, I use my clicker and you get fed. And that's the
Yeah.
only times you get fed, of course. There's
Right.
no free food, right? After 2 weeks, I'm pretty sure if I say hola,
I,
you're like,
want to know how to say hola really good.
right? So, and then we move on
Yeah.
to the next,
Yeah.
right? Because when you sell a puppy to someone and people like, oh my God, I have it for 3 days. It can sit, stand, lay down, go on this mat. It's party, blah, 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 blah. They give you a list. You're like, seriously?
Right.
And that's great. But the basics is zero.
Yeah.
There's no
Because,
foundation.
yeah, you can go outside and the dog sees a bird and you say sit, he ain't sitting. He ain't saying hola because he's like, I forgot already. We're talking Spanish or talking whatever language that is, right?
Right.
So, and so for me, I really make it really, really, really almost too simple, right?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking sometimes you're like, man, I'm training a retarded dog by way of speaking, right? But I mean, once you come out and you put all these little simple words together in your training, 9 months later, it's so perfect. It's like, and then because people are already training 10,000 exercises, right? And I'm still on sit, heel,
Right.
down, stay, right? Simple stuff. Retrieve, bring it back to me, right? Little stuff, or hold something or pick up something, and then I know for a fact I never have to go back to that exercise. When I tell that dog to sit, he gonna sit for life, right? If I forget to tell him he can run away by way of speaking, he gonna become a statue, right? I mean,
Yeah.
while someone else is like, a
Right.
3-day imprinting, right? And then for the next 10 years, they are beating that dog or choking him or zapping him. to sit or stay, or you're like, oh my God. And then there
Right.
is excuses. The weather, it's cold, it's wet, there was a bird, there was another dog, there was, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, I think that's a big difference.
Yeah. No, that. So you just really nail the basics.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Because basically everything in life is basics, right? If that's a hunting dog, is that a competition dog, a sport dog, a pet, it doesn't matter. You must master basics. Not just like, oh, he knows him. No, no. Master's degree.
right.
You're like, and if you have a good one, you make it a doctorate kind of deal. You're like, because then you never have to worry, right? And there is never
Great.
testing. I always see these people like, for the first time in my life, I'm training a bird dog, right?
Yeah. You got what kind of bird dog is that?
I got an English Cocker Spaniel,
Okay.
right? And I got all obsessed with it. That's all I've been doing is watching those little.
She's still sleeping in your bed.
Yeah, she's still sleeping in my bed, laying with me, going everywhere. But yeah, so it's about basics, right? I've been looking, and I want to make this a bomb detection dog, right? And
Hmm.
the hunting thing may or may not happen, right? But I think half of these hunting, not half, probably 90% of this hunting thing doesn't matter if that hunting for a pheasant or if that's hunting for an odor, right? Because that pheasant is just an odor. That pheasant smells like a pheasant, and my bar is TNT,
Man,
right?
but the infatuation these dogs have, because I got that little pup. The infatuation these dogs have with something flying in the air is pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's bred into it, right? Yeah, 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 yeah.
There's something about something flying that, I mean, even a helicopter. Sadie's my dog's looking at the helicopter like it's in the air. I don't know what it
It's
is.
falling.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a fact. But they also have the hunt drive, right? It's
Hmm.
in there,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I mean,
So you're gonna do a bomb detection, you think,
yeah,
with
yeah,
with,
yeah.
with
So
yours?
she is on black powder right now, and so and again, we go back. We wanted to touch on that the training was going from the back to the front and place it from the front to the back. And
Hmm.
I'll explain the thing in the time for like a bomb detection dog, right? It all came from the hunt, right? So 40 years ago, whatever they start training these dogs, is that, you know, the dog chases a bird, chases a rabbit, right?
Yep.
I look for it, da 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 da. I find it, boom. The dude shoots it and I go grab it, right? And so they're like, all right, how can we, take this drive and just take a ball, right? A tennis ball,
Okay.
right? Or some kind of ball, put a tennis ball in a jar full of odor, throw it down the line and teach the same thing. Like a running rabbit, but the ball rolls over the ground, right? So you have a line of scent, and then the major scent is at the end where that tennis ball is at. So that's how they train that, right? And so, but later on, you need to be like, okay, find it in the building, and then they're gonna find that quote tennis ball, which is not a tennis ball right now, but it smells like a tennis ball, right?
Yeah.
Whatever TNT or whatever it may be, and then the dog is in full drive to grab that, right? They're like, all right, where's that damn ball? Right? And now they start scratching on the wall or scratching on this or even barking or all kind of stuff because for them it's a tennis ball that's hidden somewhere.
Right.
And then you have to take that out and be like, okay, from now on, when you find your top reward, I want you to sit and lay down and be quiet, right? And then,
So when they find the tennis ball
no,
or
not
the
the
other.
tennis
Okay.
ball, the scent, right?
Okay.
So, and then they're gonna trick in the dog that is like, all right, I'm gonna throw the tennis ball over your head from out of my pocket, and then you think the tennis ball came from out the wall, right?
Okay.
And so a stupid dog, right? It's like, oh wow, yeah, that sounds great.
So when I sit,
But
the
yeah, when
tennis
I
ball
sit, I
falls.
get a tennis ball. So now there's a couple things, right? The
Mhm.
dog say, I'm tired of searching. I'm gonna sit, for example, right?
Oh, so they just think that you don't want them to associate just sitting with getting the tennis ball.
Right.
Well,
Or
we do the same.
now,
I mean, I don't want to interrupt the whole story, but like slick treeing, I think is a lot of the same thing. Like they just get bored with it. Some of these dogs, and they'll do that same thing. Like they don't associate in those early stages. If that makes any sense.
right, but I mean, so then we have to take out, your hunt drive and all that to find it, right?
Mhm.
And so, you start thinking, I'm like, there must be a better way to teach this, right? And it's then we go back into imprinting, right? The end result is I must sit still on an odor. That's the end result, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So how I teach it now, I go from the end result going to the front, right? End result
So
is
hold on. Like I'm getting sidetracked here. So you're teaching your dog to sit when they smell gunpowder?
correct.
Are you gonna go like if this is supposed to be finding a bomb? Do you see where I'm going with this? Like, are
Like,
you
are
gonna
they
go
going to detonate it? Is
right?
that what you're asking,
No, I'm
buddy?
like, if they find a bomb, they're just gonna sit down
Yeah.
next to the bomb,
Well, yeah, they need to indicate, right?
right?
As a handler, you walk behind the dog, you tell them search it, find it, whatever,
Okay.
right? Now the dog smells something. A lot
Yeah.
of times that's freaking lithium batteries, for example,
Okay.
right? That's why they ask you in the airport, lithium batteries in the da 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 da, because it has a certain smell into it, a certain product into it, what they also use to make IEDs,
Okay.
improvised explosive devices, right? And so long story short, the dog needs to sit, right?
Okay. Yep.
And then we're gonna reward him, right, for him finding it. And so that's how I use the hunting dog training. For example, the hand signals, right?
Yeah.
Like quartering, right?
Okay.
Left, right, left, right. So now I can go. The goal is I can go into a building in a hallway and send my dog forward, right?
Yeah.
Back. The dog runs 30 yards back at the end of the hallway, right?
Yeah.
I blow the little whistle, toot, silent whistle, right? Show to the left, and then the dog gonna start searching from the back towards me, right?
Okay.
And then, so that's why I use all these little videos from these hunting guys, uh, um, just to see, the body language, the tricks, right? I look at the top guys, the guys who win the championships. You know what I mean? I look at their little training videos they have. That's a beautiful part on YouTube right now, right?
Right.
They all
Yeah.
want to show you exactly how they do it. You're like, beautiful, right? If you have a little bit of knowledge, you're like, wow, that makes sense. And then, you put it into your own program. But to go back onto the training thing, so right now I have this little pipe, which I showed you guys, right, a video of. And on the bottom of that pipe is black powder, right? The dog puts her nose into, touches the black powder, which she inhales the smell of it. Then I use my clicker, toot, toot, and then she gets food on the side. I drill the hole, and then the food comes on top of the black powder. There's a filter there and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff, right? So, the food never gonna touch the black powder, so not gonna get contaminated, right? And then, so now she knows, right? Whoop! I smell black powder. I held my nose onto it, which is indication, right?
Yeah.
So if we take her away, I'm pretty sure I take her away and I put black powder on the ground somewhere. She gonna smell it. She gonna put her nose on that box or on whatever object it is, because she knows when my nose is on here, that's when I get fed,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And so every opportunity you have with a dog should be training. Everything that you do.
Right.
I always have food in my pocket. I always have my whistle on me, and I always have a clicker in my hand or in my jacket. I probably have 50 clickers from my cars to my truck to my halls to everywhere has a clicker, right? And yeah, I mean, because everything you see should be a training opportunity, I think. So
Right.
when I go this way and then I build the drive for the tennis ball separate, right? No scent on the tennis ball, just the tennis ball or whatever ball it may be, right? And I train all that stuff separate, and then I know I can bring him together, right? So
Yeah.
that's how I do it now in place of,
Yeah.
because then I never have a problem from I need to take your drive away for you to indicate me, right? And I need to get that ball going. Now she's gonna sit somewhere when this is a finished product. She's gonna be searching, she's gonna find it, she's gonna put her nose exactly where the main odor is coming from, right?
Right.
And then I can use my clicker from 30, 40, 50 yards away, click, click. Then the dog knows, hey, I'm getting a reward, right?
Yeah.
And when I click, she is free to go, right? And she's gonna come to me because she wants to get fed, or she wants to get her toy, or she
How
wants
old
to
is
get
your pup right now?
about 4 months.
4 months. And you're seeing. I mean, when do you start? I mean, I know you probably start super early on little things, but at what progression are you at right now? So you're not black powder.
Yeah, same thing. Basics, basics,
Yeah.
basics. All I need to do is train all that stuff on one product, right?
Yeah.
for 6, 7 months, I have time, right? It's a baby, right? So,
Yep.
always black powder, black powder, black powder, black
Just
powder.
keep it the same. So
Yeah,
it's
keep
just,
it the
you just
same,
want
keep it simple.
you want it to be so locked in that
It's
Right.
just
I only
natural.
want her to understand black powder I get fed. Black powder is a ball coming. Black powder. Everything with black powder is fun, right?
Yep.
And so later on when you have the searching drills down and the indications down and you can search a building or whatever, right? And then you start feeding them at night again in the basic tube, then with a second smell, second odor, right? And
Sure.
then you go a week or two this, another week or two the next product, week or two you can start mixing him a little bit, right? And then it's simple, right? The dog knows, hey, black powder is my main thing, boom, but then I also have this one, that one, and that one. If you start mixing him from the beginning, right, sometimes they're like, oh wow, they might forget one or not indicate. People are like, man, she did
Right.
not indicate on TNT or whatever. Yeah, because she only had TNT for a couple days and then 3 months nothing, then TNT show back up. Because people never write down their trainings, right?
Right.
They just, we have a training diary, right? Where you write down, today I did X, Y, Z. I don't need to do it with this puppy. It's black powder.
Yeah.
It's simple concept. But later on, you're going to start making mixtures. And that's what people do. You put 6 products together, right? Well, now the dog might just pick out black powder. She don't really care about the 5 other ones. And then they
Sure.
do one of the other 5 separate, and dog's like, I don't really care.
It don't have black powder.
It doesn't have black powder, right? So you
Right.
want to take your time on one product. I think that worked the best for me. And then introduce the other
So
ones.
so
And then
let's
she's only going to
assume
get fed on the other ones too. So,
so let's assume you're transitioning to a different powder besides black powder. How would you so your dog's solid on black powder.
yep.
You want it to hit on marijuana, whatever. Just something different, right?
Yep.
What would you do? What's the step 2? So we know we got him solid on black powder. 6 months from now, you want it to hit on some other odor. I don't care. Cheetos. You know what I mean? Pick something. It's like, I want this dog to do this on black powder and whatever other.
Yeah, it's simple. You just go back to basics.
Okay.
Basics is the tube, right?
Yeah.
Now you put we're not gonna do. You can, but you never want to do narcotic dogs mixed with bomb detection dogs, right?
Okay.
I mean, if that bomb detection dog is quote working in the rose garden, and now Stoner dropped a little ounce of weed,
Good
and
point.
he is sitting right. So,
Good
but yeah,
point.
so let's say
I want him to detect
yeah.
everything, Yuri. I
Right,
want him
right,
to
right,
do,
right.
guns and
Yeah.
everything. And then the dog's just going to start singling off every time he walks in the building.
Tonight is no concert. We found 1 ounce of marijuana. I'm very sorry, but so basics: the tube, in the tube, the box, marijuana in there. In Buddy's case, boom, right? The dog's like, oh my God, we're back to basics. How simple is that? Just put your nose in, you get paid, right? As soon as she puts her nose in the tube, I click, 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 and
Okay.
food comes, and then she's like, that was weird, because I don't smell black powder, right?
Right.
Let's try this
Right.
again. Nose in, click, click, food, click, click, food. Then she's like, whoa, okay. If I smell marijuana, I get paid. And that's how
Gotcha.
it's a very simple process.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. So understanding the basics and having the basics down makes
1,000,000%.
makes it
And
just
the process.
yeah.
Right? You said you're using the same tube. You're
Yeah.
going back and you're
Yeah, because you have a system and that dog understands the system. Because you taught it very well,
Yeah.
that system, it's easy to
And never testing. That's, I think, one of the main things. People like, I think my dog is ready.
we call that trash broke, Yuri.
Trash broke.
Trash broke. It means you remember that dog gonna catch a cat.
Yeah.
So whenever it runs across a deer, so if the dog's out there on a cat or bear or whatever, and then this deer goes dunk dunk dunk, runs right in front of it. Our dogs have prey drive right there. Same thing,
Yeah, sure.
They get rewarded for catching the right thing, but when something wrong runs out in front of them, they don't really care. Some dogs, they're like, oh, there's a deer, let's go catch that instead.
Right.
So, and one of the things is there may be some some ego involved
Oh,
with,
for
with the
sure.
hunter and how
No.
solid our dogs are. Like that dog will never. That dog don't run off game. That dog's broke. So the word broke and the word trash broke is
Yeah,
what we
yeah.
were referring to. Like, and so anyway, so circle back around, like not checking, like
Yeah, not never. No. If the question is, yeah, I think he is ready, then you know the answer already.
right.
You shouldn't
Right.
be thinking. It should be like, I'm 1,000,000% confident. Then I say sit, he gonna sit.
Yeah.
If that's not 1,000,000% confident, you're checking and testing. You're just wasting time and energy, and then you have to go back, right? You back because now
To
the
step
dog screwed
back,
up.
right?
Yeah, you don't wanna. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think we've done that. All of us have done that prior. You know what I mean? When monkey see, monkey do, right? I always laugh with that. It's an expression used by Bart Ballon. It's a famous Belgian trainer, and monkey see, monkey do, he calls it, and it's the truth.
Yeah.
I think every trainer does. You're like, why are you doing this? And 90% of them are like, wow, my
And
training buddy does it, or I've seen it on YouTube, or
and so
right?
for a lot of our customers, um, trash breaking and breaking trash, so running off game basically,
Right.
whatever you don't want to run. So for me, a cat very rarely is a raccoon, but a cat is my primary target. I don't want my dogs running any off game. I don't want them running a deer, an elk. I don't want them running a bear. You know what I mean? Because I don't target bears. Porcupine. I mean, there's just a ton of different
Yeah.
animals. And the hard part for a houndsman is those opportunities are very. It's a very difficult process. Meaning, we don't have a clicker and a tube with a little bobcat scent or a little
You could, though.
cougar.
You could. I've been thinking about
But
that last night because I couldn't sleep. Not because I was nervous talking to you, but just because I can't sleep.
it
But
would be difficult.
I don't think so. But because I've been thinking about it, I'm like, in the system I'm talking about is you
I'm going
go.
to send you home with some bobcat scent.
No,
Yuri.
yeah, yeah, easy.
And then
No,
we're
no.
gonna we're
Yeah.
gonna
Send you
take
a
that
puppy, Yuri.
we're gonna take that
No, no, no. I was
that
just
bird dog that we got and see if you can go catch a bobcat this September.
no. So I was just thinking about if you go from the back to the front,
Uh
right?
huh.
That would mean I need a bobcat, right?
Yeah. Yeah. If you can just go get a bobcat,
Yeah.
that's one way of doing it.
Right.
Probably.
No, no. I mean, right. So because the dog, I think that your dog has to bark on the bobcat, right? He needs to tree him, right? Or the
He needs to trail him, so he needs to figure out where it went.
right.
Tree. Then he's got to chase it hard enough and fast enough to make it decide it wants to climb a tree because it's
Right.
going to try and get away from it. It's going to do circles and all this other weird stuff. And so you've got to go from a cold trail. So you may start with a really little bit of scent where it was 3-4 hours ago, and trail it. And then you got to run fast enough through the tricks to catch it and put it in a tree. And then you got to sit at the tree and you got to bark to let us know that you've caught it. And you got to wait maybe 2 or 3 hours before a hunter would get to it.
Yeah.
So
And Yuri's thinking, no problem.
No, 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 no.
I
Yeah.
kind of see where he's going.
I'm going to check back in a week, okay?
No, no, no. I was just thinking, I'm like, all right. I mean, because I've never done these hound dogs, Buddy always invites me, right, to go.
But you don't want to walk.
He's always jet setting around with big old celebrities and
No,
stuff. to
no,
go
no,
with
no.
him.
And
We're
I'm
going
just-
this year.
We always like,
we're
we're gonna go,
take-
we're gonna go, we're gonna go, and then it's like, then I'm in Texas, then I'm here, I'm there,
I know.
and then I show up in the middle of the summer. Hey, buddy, I'm ready, and he's like, I ain't
It's
no
not
season,
season.
ain't no season, right? But so I was thinking, okay, dog has to bark. So basically, I would start with a puppy,
Mhm.
teaching him to bark, right, on a scent, right? Like, for example, let's say a raccoon. I'm just saying, because we can catch a raccoon pretty easy, right? We can set out a trap. You come to my place, boom,
Right.
boom. We set out a trap, right? We have the raccoon, right? Now
Yep.
we make it a trained raccoon, right? On both sides, I think you could train. You'll be like, all right, when the dog barks at you, right? I'm going to feed you too, right? So we can keep this raccoon alive so we can train dogs on it, right?
That's
how-
illegal,
that-
Yuri, but
that's-
hey, I like the way
we would
you
not
think.
advise that.
Yeah.
But
I was
in
just,
theory,
Again,
Yeah, I was
you're-
just thinking.
You're absolutely right, but that entails the problem and the difficulty with training hounds versus a lot of other dogs. Meaning
Right.
birds, you can go buy birds. You can go buy pigeons and quail and all these things. You can't just go down to the market and buy a bear. You're not allowed to keep them, and raccoons you're not allowed to keep. And so these are just gateways that it's really hard to get the end result for the dog. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I had this funny story. I was 2 weeks ago. I was in Baylor University in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
My son, which I'm very proud of, is accepted in Baylor, and so we had to go there. He had to stay there for a week, and the logo is Sikkim, right?
Sikkim?
bears. So
Okay.
you know the
Like the
Baylor.
dog, like sick 'em like a dog.
Yeah,
Okay.
so Baylor University has a zoo license, and they have a couple bears,
Okay.
right? And then the bear left his paw up, and they call it Sikkim bears, and bears is their
Their
logo or
mascot,
the
yeah.
mascot, right? And so we were at that zoo, and it's like some guys training with a clicker and doing all kind of stuff, and I was like, oh my god, timing is really off, and it's hard for me to not say anything, right? And I'm like, la, la,
You
la,
wanted
la,
to
la.
say something.
Yeah, because it's like he does that, shake his hand, and then the bear has to move his head, right? And then he does his move it up, and then the bear has to do that thing too, and he does it about 15 times, and then the bear is like, all right, you know what I mean?
Right.
And then he throws a piece of food, then the bear is old, he didn't see it, so the next time the bear the bear is like, screw you, you know what I mean, with your Sikkim stuff, you don't feed me when I do it, right? So the thing is over. I tried being really cool. I was like, I don't say anything. My daughter and my son are like, la, 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 la. And,
They
so
know what you're thinking.
yeah. The thing is over, right? And I'm like,
They're sitting there. They're probably like, "Oh, here comes Dad."
yeah, and I'm like, who is the trainer? And it's like, oh, yeah, this guy's my full-time job. And I'm thinking, man, if this is my full-time job, training two bears, right? From behind the fence, how difficult can that be?
Yeah.
And so I told him a story of the dancing bear. And when I was done with my story, the guy looked at me like I lost him already, like freaking,
Yeah.
10 seconds into my story, he lost the train of thought. And I'm thinking, this is the guy who is training these bears. So again, that story of the dancing bear, Bart Ballon tells that story. And it's basically, the gypsies.
The dancing bear.
Yeah,
No.
it's called the dancing bear. It's about positive and negative reinforcement training, basically, right? A long story short is the gypsies always performed and to get paid, like in the circus, right?
Yeah.
And so they have a bear, right? And you're like, how do I train this bear to dance, right?
Okay.
And the bear is never standing on the ground. The bear is always standing on a platform,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
And people are like, well, why the platform? Well, the platform is it's like box training, right?
Okay.
So you have a box, and you're gonna put your puppy on there, and that's the only place where the puppy get fed, right?
Gotcha.
So that puppy sees the box, like, hold on,
Let me get on this
right?
box.
And that's
yeah.
the same thing with that bear, right?
Yeah.
I come with my platform, I put it down,
And he's
right?
like right on.
yeah, and the bear is like walk around. I mean, you use your clicker, he touches it, click, right? So
Yeah.
soon enough, he knows when I see a platform, I jump on it. That's where I get fed.
Yep. Yep.
Right? And so it's like you feed him, you feed him, you feed him, you feed him, you feed him for months and months and months. The bear is like, dude, I see a platform now, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
now you can get away with some adversity, right?
Okay.
Because that platform has been so good to me. Now I can put some pressure on the platform or on the animal,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So now I heat up the platform, right? So the bear jumps up, I heat up the platform. Now he does.
I see.
He is, quote, dancing. He ain't dancing. His feet are hot, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
People ask, well, why does he not run away? Think about this. It's a simple concept. For 6 months, I get fed 10 times a day on the platform. I'm staying. Throw me food. And the people do. Click, click, food,
Right,
click,
yeah.
click, food. The bear would take anything. Same with the dog. You can get some pressure on the dog, on your box trainer or on
Yeah.
your, wherever you do it, right?
Yeah.
Because it's been so good to the dog, right?
You've gotten the basics. That platform has been hammered on the basics.
Hammered on the basics, fun. The
Yep.
platform only has been, that's where I get paid.
Yep. Yep.
So now it's like I beat you a little bit by way of speaking, or I put a little pressure on you, right?
Right.
I can ask you more stuff.
Yeah.
And the dog not gonna run away from that platform because that's been fed for
Yeah.
6 months. Same with that bear or
Yep.
whatever animal that's gonna be, right? Yeah.
So you told this
Makes
kid
sense.
the dancing bear story.
I told the dancing bear story, and then my wife and my kid were probably like, "Oh my god," you know.
Dad, we gotta go.
Yeah, and so the guy's like, I'm like, "You get it, right?" You know what I mean?
And he's
And
looking at
yeah,
No.
he had that look in his face like, as soon as you said something about a platform, you lost me. And so this is a guy who get paid full time, probably good
Good
money,
money.
good money to be a zookeeper, and yeah, he
he's
had
just
yeah.
throwing food just willy nilly.
Yeah, willy nilly with a clicker, and the bear every 15, 20 times moves his hand and woo, sick him, right? So, yeah,
Oh, you want a job in Texas? You know,
yeah, I could be. I
Hey,
was
your
just,
kid
yeah,
can pay tuition
Yuri's
that
gonna
way,
be.
man.
He's
Your
gonna show
kid's
up at the
training
zoo.
bears.
He's gonna show up there at the zoo and be like, "Okay, we need a hot plate. We
Make
need
a
a
platform."
platform. It's got a hot, and we get one of them propane cookers. One of them turkey cookers." And they're like,
Yeah.
"What do you mean? We're gonna set we're gonna set the platform on fire to teach this bear how to
Yeah,
dance."
a dancing bear story.
Oh,
Yeah, but it's a funny.
I think
But if you think about it, right? It's the thing of training, right?
yeah. You just gotta try and do it without the fire nowadays because everybody.
No, but it's not about fire, but it's about adverse. You can get away with some adversity in training, and in some point in time, adversity gonna come, right?
Yeah,
It's gonna come. No, I train positive, 100% positive, right?
yeah,
But adversity comes. You pee in my house. Guess what? I don't like that so much, right?
yeah.
You chewing up my iPhone charger cord while you're driving, losing my front seat. I'm not really liking this so much,
Yeah.
right? So you're gonna get a little ping. Hey, knock this off, right?
Yep.
And depending on the dog, like these spaniels, you raise your voice a little bit. Spaniel is like, I am so sorry. 1,000 miles an hour, the little tail, right?
Yes.
A Malinois, a Rottweiler, you need to probably do a little more than say, hey, But
little
but
more. Yeah.
but so you can get away with adversity if you do the basics right.
Yeah.
I can ask you that because you're not gonna get stressed. I'm on my place board. I'm on my whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
You choke
And
me a
then
little
all
bit, or you
crumbles.
give me a little correction while I'm sitting. Well, I've done 9 months of sitting.
Yeah.
It's not a problem.
And I'm going to circle back because most of our customers are hound. They work on the hounds and stuff. And so, for our customers, the disconnect, which everything you say is absolute truth. Like I fully believe.
I wouldn't go that far because
Well, I would say absolute, but it is the same. Like the dog has to build on the foundation
yeah.
and the basics. Getting there and getting the consistency is probably the number one reason people have a hard time making a dog in hounds.
and
successful.
anything, yeah.
And it's strictly because we could go out and it may be 3, 4, 5, 6 trips before we can catch and be successful at catching a bobcat. So one of the things to speed up the process is you got to get a trained dog to be able to catch the critter to put your young dogs with.
With it, yeah,
You know what I
right,
mean?
right.
And you can do it with just young dogs, and there are guys that are really that are good. And whether you go out in the snow and you follow tracks, there's things you got to do to put them in the right situation. But the hard part is with a ton of other training, you can go get the resources that you need.
Right,
You can't
right.
just go pick up a bobcat or a mountain lion or a cougar or a bear. You know what I mean? And the zoos just don't let us borrow the bears like that. So it's interesting.
But I mean, don't you have like scent?
We got some scent, and that's where some guys will start with scent. And
Like a raccoon? Can't you shoot a raccoon whenever? Is that protected animal?
no, it's not protected, but there's seasons. So September through March, and some states are year round.
It's like what they do with the birds, right? You shoot them and then you freeze them.
Yeah.
Right, and then you use
Yeah.
them, defreeze them, and defrost them. I think is the right word, right? And then you know what I mean? Because I would lay tracks, right? That's I did tracking dogs for the Secret Service, and
Yeah.
if that's
You
the
could
deal, I
definitely-
would
and I-
pull one of those raccoons behind me on the ground for a mile, and then put my young dog on that scent.
Yeah.
And basically, the most scent gonna be, where the
And
quote
it
raccoon
would be
is hanging in a
interesting.
tree, and then you make him.
Yeah.
I don't know. How do you reward a dog?
There you go. There's another problem, right? Is that dog has to do everything by itself for so long, 5 6 hours, trailing and chasing,
It's crazy.
this animal to get the reward at the end. I mean, there's.
Wait, but then what's the reward? Just barking,
I'm gonna pet you.
huh?
I'm gonna pet you. I'm gonna give you some pets.
Yeah, but that's not enough, I think.
It is
See, and
enough.
that's hard too because it's the association.
Yeah.
I know I fought this for a long time. It's like I'd give him a treat or something at the tree or pet him up, hoot and holler,
They
make it a
don't
fun
care.
thing.
The drive for the dog is the reward for the dog. I mean, it is.
Yeah, it's different.
I'm
than
really
any other
excited. I need
breeds,
to get
think.
you out there.
Yeah.
You can see him. Hopefully, we can catch one. I don't know if that. I can't promise you we're gonna catch anything, but it
You
is
wait when I go and we don't catch one. Next episode gonna be a good one.
exactly. You have a whole bunch of excuses, man. Just,
No,
just
no,
bring a
but
notepad.
I have a story, right? I
Mm-hmm.
was selling a fully trained dog in Alabama to business people, and the father comes to me. He's like, "You train our dogs than these shepherd dogs?" And I'm like, "Oh, I don't know. That's kind of what I've done
Train
my whole
their
life."
dogs.
No. Do you train other dogs or other?
Oh,
And
other
I was
dogs.
like,
Okay.
yeah, he had that heavy accent, and I was like, well, I mean,
So he just didn't want a shepherd
yeah.
or a
So
Malinois.
yeah, so so the guy I was selling to was his son, and he
Uh-huh.
bought a German Shepherd from me, fully trained. And when I was there, the guy was like, "Oh wow, these guys do know how to train dogs."
Okay,
Because a
I
lot of
gotcha.
people think I'm just a sales guy, right? They're like, "Oh, he shows up with a fully trained dog," but then they
Joeri's full of
forget.
shit.
Then they forget where does that dog come from? Someone
Right.
has trained that dog, right?
Yep.
And so the guy's like, he's like, I got a squirrel hunting dog, and I never even heard of squirrel hunting in my life. Right? I grew up in the city, and
Yeah.
and I'm thinking squirrel hunting, and he said the story was that the dog was I don't know how far away, couldn't find him, and he hit the button from the electric collar all the way back to him. Right?
Yeah.
And so now when he says, "Go get some squirrels," the dog is like, "No, thank you, I'm good," right? And so he asked me that. He told me that story. He's like, "You have a solution?" And I think for a minute or two, I was, you have to go back to where the end result is. Same with that hound dog, and now
Yep.
it's a little whatever, a little
Yeah.
squirrel hunting dog, whatever breed that is, right? He gonna tree the thing and then they shoot it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so I told the guy, I can fix that real easy, right? You have another dog? He's like, yeah. So the first dog go, I have that little dog that don't want to leave anymore with me on the leash, right? First dog goes, trees a little squirrel, right?
Right.
We take a little 12 gauge shotgun, boom, shoot it. It falls on the ground, right? And at that moment in time, that dog was all like, oh my God, I'm going to go fight it, right? And
Yeah.
then I let it go, and now it's staring up that little squirrel, right? Then
Yeah.
we take him off and take the squirrel away,
Yeah.
right? And then you say, go get some squirrels, whatever they say in Alabama. No. And that dog is gone again because he just had a major thing, right? He never got, it's like you say, thank you for doing this. I just shot
Yeah.
him. Don't touch him because I'm going to eat him or whatever, right?
Right.
And I'm thinking, once in a while, there must be a reward more than thank you, good boy, right? And so
Yeah.
in this case, the squirrel falls and, the little, whatever, it's like some little 15-pound dog. I don't know what,
Sized.
mud dog, right? And
Yeah.
now he, quote, fight the squirrel. He ain't fighting, I mean, but, he's biting and chewing and so now the motivation is high again. I'm going to find me another one. I'm
Yep.
going to chew it again, right? And so, that's what I told the guy. Once in a while,
Yeah.
you give him one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and I do believe like that would it does help. Like harvesting an animal once in a while is definitely helpful. I don't think you need to shoot every single one. You know what I
No,
mean? For
yeah, I'm
us,
just, I don't know anything about that. I'm just saying
Yeah.
it would be nice to, and I don't know, maybe the hound dog don't care. Maybe even if you shoot it, what would happen if you shoot
There's some dogs that definitely are really interested in it. We call them like game possessive. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
they're
yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh, this is mine, and they'll like almost growl a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I don't tolerate that. And I got other dogs that will go up and smell it and be like, okay, let's go get another one.
Yeah,
just
funny.
like
Well,
just
it's
chill.
so deeply bred in there that
Exactly.
it's instinct, right?
You
Yeah.
have to in the hounds. We have to rely on the instinct
Oh, yeah, yeah.
for a large part of it. So we still got to train to make
Sure.
a dog. And some of the fault of houndsmen in the past was I think relied too much on instinct, where it's like, I don't want to say a fault because it's just some people. It's like all instinct. You had this dog that was just whatever, and you turn it loose and it just chased this, and all it was instinct. And I think we're coming into a point now where it's kind of a mixture where we're starting to train and think about things a little bit different because you
Wait till
just
I get into the hounds dogs.
yeah.
We'll have all kind of boxes and all kind of animals hanging in
You're gonna watch
cages on
Joeri driving
trees.
through the woods with a bunch of contraptions. He's like, "Hey, I invented this thing here, and this picks up the scent, brings it up to the dog's nose." And,
Yeah.
it'd be like a circus driving through the woods. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, you start thinking so much about stuff like, how can I really teach this? Teach it. And I think that's the deal. It's like, I think the older I get, I just want to teach it better,
yeah,
right? I want to teach it. I want to make it more easy, more understandable, more enjoyable, right?
yeah.
For that dog. And then,
And for
you
the
know,
hounds, it takes time. Like you can't do this in your backyard. You got to be up in the woods, So it's like to do this a couple days a week or whatever. I mean, it's a pretty intensive.
you almost have to be like Buddy
Yeah.
in the season, who
No.
shows up, 4 or 5 times a week in the forest somewhere
Check in with the Indians.
somewhere near you. You see the W truck show up.
Yeah. No, I don't want to say you can't do it like here and there, but
Oh yeah,
the whole point of training is just like, and that's why I always enjoy talking to you because you're so intense on training and you train so much, but you've incorporated it into your life. If you do for hounds, it's hard to do that in the city. You know what
Oh
I mean?
yeah,
Like you
no
got to
problem. Yeah.
go, to trash break, to pass 100 deer or 1,000 deer or whatever it is that you got to have that dog trot right by or drive right by and
Yeah.
not indicate. The only way you do that is spending a lot of time in the woods driving around with that dog, and so it is for a lot of dog people when you really think about it. Hounds are difficult because
Oh yeah.
putting in that situation is extremely hard. So
I have a question.
yeah.
When you take like devil's advocate here, though,
Mhm.
on Yuri's side, when we're looking and putting them in the woods, I mean, really, we're testing that dog from
Yeah.
day one because they don't know. Like, if a
Right.
deer goes by and they've never been introduced to it and they're testing it and it's not solid, like the logic behind it, I get. So, like with young dogs, I know I really try to just familiarize them with, I mean, now primarily one game. And they kind of naturally broke themselves. They just didn't pay attention to anything else because, they got rewarded and they did a good job on one thing.
So
If you're,
so Jason, like Yuri said, what's the reward? What do you think our dogs are getting out of the reward? What is it that the reward is so deep that they're starting to ignore deer? You know what I mean? Like,
I think, I guess the best way for me to break it down is that if those dogs don't get the animal, which I don't condone shooting anything. I mean, I very rarely knock one out to a dog, but I think it's frustration when you pull them away and they're just abiding by you and they're following your direction, but really their goal is to catch that game and, primal instincts.
yeah,
But if they don't know that they get that with a deer, you know what I'm saying? Like a deer has never been anything good. It's never been anything bad for them. Maybe one or two times in their life, we had to reinforce, don't chase a deer. But with young dogs, I'm thinking as far as like familiarizing them with the correct scent, like your tube and your scent and your feeding at a really young age. I think it could be a good starting point, like a jump start. Like say I chase fox. I start working with that dog in your manner where they're getting rewarded for locating that scent. When they go to the woods and they hit it that first time, it's like, oh, boom, here we go. I know what this scent is, whether they know the rest of it or not. It's like an extra jump start as far as starting a puppy. Same with drags. I mean, hound guys have been doing scent drags forever.
yeah.
Same concept. I don't know what you think as far as multiple scents. It's like TNT versus, some other
Yeah,
explosive.
but when he knows the thing, right?
Right. You're
It's like,
solidifying like, hey, I'm feeding you when you go sniff this thing
Move your
smelled like fox. You know, I just wonder how you could incorporate it. I think the concept behind it, if you have the time, and that's something you can do in a controlled environment, like in your backyard, set up a couple different situations where they're searching for it. And when they alert on it, you reinforce that. I don't know. I mean, it's something to think about.
mm,
My wheels were spinning as soon as you were talking about it too, Yuri.
it's like now it's like the houndsman gonna have a bunch of tubes and this. It's new business opportunities for W. We're gonna start making him in
Yeah, right.
yeah.
I don't have the time for that, Yuri. I got to go spend my time on my homework in the woods. I don't want to reinvent the wheel. Sometimes um I I wonder, you know what I mean? Like it it's so difficult. And yes, I absolutely believe there's things I could do better. And the other aspect sometimes I tell guys is you've just got to put the time in, like
Oh yeah, but
with
the
what we
time
do.
that's a non-negotiable, right? Time, it's like my puppy, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, it doesn't matter if that's holiday or this or that
yeah.
or here or whatever happened during the day. Or I mean, it needs to
Mhm.
get that tube so many times a day. It needs to get that ball so many. I mean, so your time you cannot replace time. There is no
Yeah.
training has to happen daily, right? And daily meaning, even for the hunting dog, he needs to be in shape, right? You don't
Yeah.
have time, you buy yourself a treadmill, right? Or
Yeah.
boom, and hang him on that treadmill for and build it up, and because if he is not in good shape, ain't no way he gonna do his work, right? That's what
Right.
people forget too, right? They're like, oh man, I have him all this and that and that. Then they go hunting with a dog that's 15 pounds overweight. Well, guess what?
Yeah.
You're like, he
Yeah.
didn't last all day. No shit, genius. I mean, so it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be hunting. It has to be the food, the diet, the exercise,
Yeah.
everything
Yeah.
combined, right?
Yeah.
It's like you said, lifestyle, right? You not
Yeah.
take your dog once a week out of the kennel and go hunt with him. There is still 6 other days that, for most people, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's people's lives that revolve around dogs, and it may not fully revolve around dogs, where dogs are the only thing,
No, no, yeah,
but
yeah, but it's
dogs
yeah,
are a huge part of our life.
yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like
lifestyle.
it's not like, oh, we got this one pet that you just kind of whatever. It's like that dog and having a purpose. It's not there's people who are infatuated with their pet dogs who
Yeah,
aren't aren't doing any help for that pet dog. You know what I mean? Like whether it's a Chihuahua and it's just like, oh, look at this cute little thing that does not. It's like that's not what I'm talking about. Like if you're infatuated with a Chihuahua and that Chihuahua is just does nothing, but you're just obsessed with it, you're not helping it. But if you're actually focused on the dog and you're making that dog at least do something, whether it's strong obedience or
dancing bear story.
the dancing bears, as long as
Yes.
it can dance when you turn the hot plate underneath it on, you know, I think those are the people who truly appreciate a dog a lot more than you know. Again, you're gonna offend all the fluffy, the people out there that think, oh, I
That's
love
okay.
dogs more than anybody. It's like, dude, you really to the people who spend their lives around dogs, they kind of get it a little bit more. I think.
Well, I think because we have a purpose. The bird dog needs to flush or
Yeah.
point, or right. The protection dogs need to protect you. The hound needs to chase and find. I mean, so we use it as a certain lifestyle because it takes a lot of time and it needs to do what it needs to do for you,
Right.
right? And I think for protection dogs, for bird dogs, for this and that, the simpler you make it and the more um, you put all the training into little steps and teach them these little steps and spend a lot of time, even the half retarded dog still gonna be a good family dog, right?
Right.
I'm not gonna
Hmm.
say that we get any puppy and through our training becomes world champion, but I think if you have a dog with the right instinct, right, the right nerve structure, and then you can put our training on it, it's still gonna be good, become a good family dog for somebody, right?
Right.
And I think I saw one of the top spaniel trainers in England say that once they started doing like place boards and like box training and make it real simple and real this and real that, it's really clear to the dog, right?
Yeah.
If you teach
Yeah.
a dog to flush left and right, and you put a box to the left and you put a box to the right, and I teach you that in a controlled environment in my training hall, right?
Yeah.
It's a simple concept. I got fed for a month or two on a box. Guess what? Now I'm sitting, which I know perfect, right?
Yeah.
I move my hand to the left. He runs to that box. In the beginning, it's one step away. She touched the box, click, click. My puppy, I'm already on 4 boxes in my training hall. I can point. It's a game, right? You're like, oh, wow. See me run. Boom, touch it, click, food, right? Dog's
Yeah.
like, where we go next? I
Okay.
mean, so,
So
and
you
if,
just point to what box you want it to
yeah,
go
but
to.
in the beginning, it's 2 boxes. She's in the middle, or she's sitting on one, and the other box is 2 feet away.
Yeah.
And then she starts joking, dong, 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 and you pay it a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And then you're like, all right, stop it, right?
Yeah.
Let's put a third one in it, right? On the left side. And then it's like, all right, now you need to watch me. But the watch me is already been implemented on a different exercise, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you put all these little pieces together. I know she's gonna be excited, and then she's like, all right, well, he didn't pay me. He didn't say nothing. I run on the box. I didn't get paid. Why not? And then their mind starts spinning, right?
Yeah.
And then it's like, I point that way, boo, and then I get paid there. And then soon enough, dog's like, all right, I just follow your hand, and that's how I get paid. So it's a simple, right? But in the beginning, if you take that away, and now I show you my left hand and my right hand, and now you start running crisscross, and there is never really a reward system, right?
Yeah.
It can be very difficult, and they're like, oh, this dog is retarded. Next, right?
Yeah.
Next meaning that dog never got a real chance. He didn't understand your teaching system.
Yeah.
You can go to schools, right? My kid are really
How
good.
long would you work on something if your dog wasn't getting it? So let's say you started this box thing and you just cannot.
Oh, it's not possible, right? I mean, I don't think it's possible.
Well, no, I'm just
for a
saying,
dog
like,
not to understand
the first time. It's not going
concept.
to work the first time, right? The first time, or is it like? At what point would you be like, okay, I've spent 5 minutes, 10 minutes? You know what I mean? You're starting to get frustrated or something. It's like,
Oh
man,
yeah. As a trainer, the second you get frustrated, it's
over.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
it's
stop.
done. I mean, nothing good's come from that anymore. Now adversity gonna come without basics being instilled, right? That's the old
So you could be
school.
frustrated after the basics, after that would be a pressure. You could use adversity, or I would use frustration, in my trash breaking or my,
Right.
you know what I mean, like, but that's only when my dogs know damn good and well what they're
Right,
supposed
right,
to do.
right,
You know what I mean?
right,
So
right,
it's like
right.
I can
Yeah,
get,
right.
they'll watch me get frustrated when, I'll be driving down the road, and I'm sure you will see this if I take you out. They'll be like, oh. And I'll be like, what the hell was that? You know what I mean? Like, it was no, you get down, go check. And they come back like, no, it was nothing. You know what I mean? They drive down and they want to go check a coyote or whatever. They bark, and so I'll stop. And about a couple times of that, and I'll be like, okay, guys, cut it out. Like, I know what you're doing. And I'm a little frustrated, and you're going to be frustrated here in a
But
minute.
but the basics, and like I say, I'm not a hounds guy,
Mhm.
right? But the basics for us is I mean, basically you get paid in food, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, we all need to eat, so you know what I mean. But adversity would be you have a place box or a box to sit on, a place board.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like that puppy doesn't go and check out the place board. And I would take a leash and boom, 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 couple corrections. Here's the place board. Eat,
Yeah.
right? That would make no sense,
Right.
right? So it's kind of like, well, when you see, she has not much interest in it or not know what to do, you just put her on top, right? You lift her up, put her on top, click, click, food.
Yeah.
Soon enough, the puppy is like, oh, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I just walk on it, and that's when the clicker comes. I mean, so I don't think in the real basics and all that kind of stuff of what I do, it's not possible for a dog not to understand that.
See,
right?
and that I do that a little bit with our box. So the box that goes in the back of my truck, which the dogs ride in,
Right.
on top. I'll tell them up. You know what I mean? Which I want them to get on top of the box, because that's where I want to drive around them for smelling a cat. Or
Oh,
whatever.
okay.
And I'm not as consistent as what you're talking about. I'm not doing it for 6 months. But when they're old enough to jump up on my truck, same thing. I'll put them up there and give them a little hot dog or something on top, and they're like, "Oh wow, this is awesome," and I'll be like, "I'll come down," and they'll jump down. You know what I mean? I do it when they can jump up and down. You know,
Right, 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 right.
they got to be able to take that jump. So don't do this too early because puppies shouldn't be jumping
Yeah,
down
right, right,
2 feet. But you know when they're 8, 9 months old, when I'm ready to start taking them out in the woods, and then I can just tell them, you know, up. And I mean, I can be driving my truck and I can just roll my window down and be like, up. And all my dogs will look at me and they go, okay, I know what this means. And they go all
For
the way
me, it would. I have already. My mind is already spinning. Right. I can do this with the 8-week-old puppy because you have a metal box with the thing in. Right.
Yeah,
I'm gonna make me a little place board in metal. Right.
yeah,
Same as my box. Come on, up, click, 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 click. So by the time he can jump himself,
yeah,
now he had already 6 months of this sitting on top of this metal,
yeah,
which is the same as your box, and you can go from that box to your dog box in
yeah.
5 minutes and have a dog that's like, man, I love this stuff.
And that's what my buddy
Yeah.
does. Is he has a little, like a
miniature
separate
box.
box. Yeah, no, not even a miniature box, but yeah, exactly. He'll just bring the puppy up on top of that box and pet it and
Yeah.
and give it some food, and that's where he feeds it. And so the puppy just learns on this box.
All good stuff
It's good
happens.
stuff, man.
Yeah,
and then
place board. Yeah.
when it's time to go to the woods, he's like, "Oh, the box is in the truck." It's just
And
Okay.
hopefully he doesn't do what my dog did. Be like halfway hunting, you're like, all right, that's enough for today. Now back
Exactly.
on my box. Feed me now.
Yeah, exactly. You don't- like, hey, Dad, I chased it for like, yeah. And sometimes that's how it starts. You know, they may go 100 yards the first time, you know, and you know, quarter mile, and then they come back looking for you, and um, there's a
Yeah, that
whole
would drive me crazy, I think, because I can't. I'm like a control freak, right?
yeah.
You know what I mean? This hounds thing would not be me.
Oh
You know,
yeah, it
or
would
I
be. It
should
would be
become like an
difficult.
ultra runner. You're like, hold on, I'm running with you. I want to check this out. I mean, so yeah, I would have a hard time with
Well,
that.
there'll be times where I'll be like, "Oh shit, that pup's coming back," and my goal is not to be there. So you know what I mean. So I'm like, back up the
Speed
truck,
up.
get him. I'm like, everybody's loading up. We're like, whoa, and I'll take off. That puppy gets on the road. It's like, well, yeah, and it's alone. You know what I mean? Now it's like, why? And I'm like, because I want it to stay with the other dogs. I'm like, hey,
Right,
I'll
right,
pick
right.
you up where the other dogs end. You know what I mean? Like, and so I try to make the situation where they
Yeah, that would drive me crazy.
it's really difficult. It's
You're
really
like,
difficult
I
sometimes.
might not find my dog back.
That's why we have a business that sells GPS systems.
Yeah, that's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
So I can sit back off 900 yards and be like, huh, you know, that dog's just right there or whatever. You know, so we're watching those pups.
No,
We don't
no, I
just leave
get it.
them
I
out,
get it.
but-
I'm just kind of that,
But
you know.
same thing. If
You
they take
can't
off on a
control the
deer,
environment.
same thing.
Yeah, I can't control the environment. That
Yeah.
that drives me a little crazy. But yeah.
Same thing with it. My young pup, you know, 9 months, whatever, take off on a deer. It's just start chasing deer. All my other dogs go forward, and I'll be just like, keep going forward, keep going forward. I'll get quarter mile away, and I'll just give them a little zap zap or a little tone, you know, beep beep. Just stop them. They come back, and they're like, you know, just running to catch up. And I make sure. I mean, I'll throw dogs on the truck and get a mile down the road and make that dog run a while before it can catch me. You know what I mean? Because I want it to think,
Yeah,
God, I
yeah.
chased this deer and fuck, Dad don't even care. You know what I mean? Like, he's gone. Everybody left, and slowly those pups learn. I could chase that deer, but man, the consequences of chasing that deer is then these guys always leave, and then I got to run an extra mile and a half at full speed to catch up, and they don't like that. You know what I mean?
Right,
so
right,
so
right,
some
right,
of it's this balance between
consequences.
positive and negative. You know what I mean? So, and most of the time I don't even. Whenever I see them, I just pretend like I didn't even notice. You know what I mean? Like I didn't even notice they took off, and it's just like I just keep driving like normal because I want that dog to cue off of the other dogs and kind of learn what's normal, which is, hey, we don't chase deer. Like every other dog passes these deer, and that pup is like, there's a deer 25 yards right there. We could go catch that thing, you know, and they have to learn to cue off of other. It's challenging sometimes. It's
It would
really
be for
challenging.
sure. My mind is spinning. Joeri the houndsman is coming out, right? I would be like, I need scent, you know, and I would teach his puppies on scent, like I do with the black powder. I think. I mean, you know, and then you can tell them, go grab me a coon, whatever the other guy said. You know,
Yeah.
maybe we should tell that story one day, huh?
Yeah,
From the
yeah.
guy I met in the airport, you know, who
We can tell
Yeah.
that story now. I talked to him. You were picking up a dog,
Yeah, we were picking up dogs at the airport that people shipped to us for training. Yeah,
Yeah, and this guy was going ballistic.
yeah, they were shipping him something, or
Probably a dog.
they were shipping him a dog. Yeah, they were shipping him a dog, and I don't know, somewhere he missed this transfer flight or something. The guy was going nuts, you know.
Yeah.
And the girl or the people working at the airlines were just kind of like, I'm sorry, you know, it's not that's people's fault. They look at a computer, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The
And they're
dog
like, their
is
dog's not here. I
Yeah,
don't
the
know what to
dog
tell
is
you.
not
You're,
here. Oh, he is in Atlanta, missed flight number, blah blah blah. These people cannot change. You know what I mean? They didn't change anything
Right.
about that. It's not like, you know, that guy was kept going on and on and on. I finally told him like, hey, it's enough. You know, we got into it a little bit. I was like, you know, these people cannot change that. You know.
right.
Then he said how much money it would cost for him to come back tomorrow, and they should pay him for the hours he was waiting, and so was I waiting, right? My dogs weren't there either way. You know, things
Yeah.
happen in life, right? So
Right.
that's when he said that he was a houndsman, and that he could tell his dog, "Hey, go grab me a raccoon or a bear or a cat,
He told him whatever you wanted to go catch.
whatever you want to go catch." I can tell him, and he goes catch exactly that species of what I told him. Impressive, right?
You should hire him.
No. No. I know who he's talking about, and the answer is no.
Yeah.
Oh, but yeah, he was like, you go catch a cat. I could just point and go catch a cat. If you want to go catch a bear, I'll just tell that dog to go catch a bear. And there's some truth to that. Probably not so much with him, but there are people who can do that.
Yeah, there are people who can do that.
But they are not sitting on a computer and not waiting at the airport. They're out in the woods right now, probably hunting.
Yeah.
Spending time with a dog because it's going to take a lot of time in the woods to
It's like
do that.
social media, right? I closed all my social media 2.5 years ago. It don't bring anything,
Yeah.
right? It doesn't bring anything. The people who write on Facebook, I trained my puppy today and I did place command, and that the whole video has to be on there. And it's like, then they come to a point that they only know monkey see, monkey do, right?
Yeah,
And now
yeah.
it's like, all right, I cannot find any more YouTube videos now from the next step. So it's like what we do now, and then it's like, yeah, I sold the dog.
Right.
Dog wasn't good enough, right?
Yeah.
They only know, you know, because there comes a point you're like, all right, now you have to put your big boy pants on and finish a dog, or finish,
Yeah.
go compete or whatever, right? Because everyone has the best dog, the best young dog coming up, and oh my God, you should see this one. And a year later, he's gone
Yeah.
because they don't know how to teach it, right? Or you know, it's you know, and then you have the groupies. Oh my God, you're such a great guy, and then dog leaves. You're like, as a trainer, you're like, all right, you know, you know. So yeah, I it's just not worth my time to.
Yeah. So what are you doing now? You're just playing with this pup.
Yeah, playing with this pup, training a dog to compete with. I had a dog who's been ready for a while. I had some personal stuff going on, so I haven't competed. Really enjoy the process with this dog. It's really good, and you know,
This is like your therapy a little bit.
yeah,
Just
yeah,
kinda
yeah,
go
yeah.
back. So you've been talking, and we'll wrap it up here. But I want to Do you think this dog will hunt and do your bomb detection, or I mean, is it separate enough that
Oh, I don't think it's any issue. I don't think it's a problem.
we're gonna try
Right.
and take it out to take Sadie and your dog out? And my dog is not trained. I mean, you'll be like, yeah, this dog's not trained at all. But I'll be like, she
Because
minds.
basically, in place of finding a bird, she is gonna look for scent, right?
Yeah.
And then I think it's
instinct. She's gonna instinct on point, But she'll come to me like I have her trained to come and recall. Really, like my training revolves around like she'll be here. I can be like, hey, Sadie, let's go. We'll walk outside, and she'll go check around fields or whatever. And I'll be like, hey, hop in the truck, and she'll hop in. She minds really well. I don't have the basics down, so she's not going to turn into a statue. You know what I mean? I tell her to sit. I have not worked on that hard enough, and to me, I don't really care.
maybe it might be safer if we don't take guns when we do bird training, me and you, so we don't shoot our own dog.
No, she'll do good. But she has enough of my training that she knows what a tone is and a e-collar.
Okay.
But to tell her to sit and her to turn into a statue is not going to happen. I can tell you that. She'll be like, all right, the hell with this. There's a bird over there. I'm gonna go find that bird. So,
But I'm already working on the newest leash.
the newest leash.
Yeah. as soon as this thing is over, I'm going to show you my concept. I made already one homemade. Now we have to make it.
You got to make a
Yeah, I have already one for the teach the habits, and I have this great, you know what I mean?
Oh,
My
yeah.
mind started spinning. I was like, so I made one at home. I was like, sweet, this gonna work. Watch this. So we'll yeah,
Yuri's inventing. Jason, you got anything else?
innovation.
No, I think I'm gonna do my own private research and call Yuri off hours. 'Cause-
You gotta go watch some YouTube videos when you
Yeah,
run
yeah,
out.
I'm gonna
When
go
you run out of the
YouTube it
YouTube videos, you're gonna go call Yuri.
Yeah.
That's
When
about
you don't
it.
find the next step, you're like, what's now?
Yeah.
yeah, we'll get the basics for free somewhere. Then I'll call you, Yuri.
Yeah, sounds good.
Oh. And then one of these, we need to do another. We'll do another podcast sometime. You gotta let me know. You got so many killer stories that we've got to get into a couple of those stories. You can't come back without a good
Without a
story.
good story, huh?
I
Plenty of good stories.
plenty of good stories that you just can't tell yet, I guess. But whenever you can, when the statutes of limitations is over, with your Secret Service, with you selling protection dogs, I mean, you've had some like serious clients that you can't
Yeah.
mention here and there. But I've always got to hear some stories, and man, at some point I want to hear a good story.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, Yuri, we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys.